Mother gives birth to healthy girl. 2 years later, the doctor calls with shocking news. This woman gave birth to a healthy girl and lived the best life she could imagine with her daughter. But that would all change when she got an unsuspected call from the hospital 2 years after the delivery. Because her doctor had shocking news for her that would change her entire life. Amanda always pictured her future with a lovely home, a husband, and a loving child, but that all changed when she got pregnant from a one-night stand. There wasn't a man in her life, but she decided to keep the baby and be a single mother. It was the best decision she ever made. Her daughter Stacy was the best thing that happened to Amanda, and time flew by. But an unexpected call took Amanda out of her dream and back to reality. Her doctor called, which made her realize it had been 2 years since Stacy came into her life. "I have some news," the doctor said. Amanda thought it was strange for the doctor to call her after such a long time and was curious what he had to say. "There's been a mistake," he said, causing Amanda to worry. "A mistake? What did that mean?" She looked at Stacy and asked, "What kind of mistake?" But the doctor didn't respond immediately, as if he wasn't sure what to say. "Can you come over to the hospital? It's important and not something to discuss over the phone," he eventually said. There was something in his tone that alarmed Amanda. Amanda became worried. "What do you mean you can't discuss it over the phone? What's going on?" she demanded. But it remained silent on the other end of the phone. "You need to come over as soon as possible," the doctor eventually said. The sudden change of tone caused Amanda to tell the doctor she would be there as soon as possible. She hung up and sighed before dialing her mother to ask if she could watch Stacy, and as expected, her mother instantly agreed. Her first worry was now resolved, but they were far from gone. Amanda's mind raced as she struggled to secure her daughter's seatbelt. Her hands were trembling, and her breathing was rushed. She needed to go to the hospital and find out what this news was, or she would go crazy. When the seatbelt was finally secure, she rushed over to her mother's house. She stopped in front of her mother's house and hurriedly got Stacy out of her seat. When her mother opened the door, she showed a worried expression. "What's going on, dear?" she asked. But Amanda couldn't answer her mother, as she didn't know what was going on herself. The fact that she couldn't tell her mother there was nothing to worry about nearly broke Amanda. She was nervous and said goodbye with a trembling voice before turning away from her daughter and mother. She was determined to discover what was happening, but wasn't prepared for the shocking news. On her way to the hospital, Amanda can't help but think about the situation. Why did the doctor call her so suddenly after 2 years of silence? Why couldn't he talk to her on the phone? Was the news that bad? The first thought that had crossed her mind while she was on the phone with Dr. Lowell was that they discovered there was something wrong with Stacy. Was her daughter seriously ill? Did they find some rare condition that could not be treated? Or was there something else going on? Amanda arrived at the hospital and parked her car as fast as possible. She grabbed her phone and exited her car, but as she hurried to the entrance, she noticed 2 missed calls from the doctor. Her heart pounded in her chest. What could this news be that had so much urgency? Panic and fear were controlling her body at this point, and Amanda was fighting the tears as she arrived at the front desk. She asked for Dr. Lowell's office and nervously moved around while waiting for the answer. When the assistant had given her directions, Amanda hurried through the hospital, each step increasing her worries. Amanda turned the final corner and entered the waiting room in front of Dr. Lowell's office. It was empty, apart from an older couple sitting near the window. As Amanda walked, she looked at them, and they looked familiar. But why did they look familiar? She had never seen them before. Amanda shook her head. There were more important things for her to focus on. The older couple didn't even seem to notice her as she walked by and stopped before the door for a moment. Amanda took a deep breath, and when she was ready, she knocked on the door and entered. Dr. Lowell sat behind his desk and looked up when he heard Amanda enter. He let out a sigh of relief and stood up to welcome her. "Please sit down," he said with a hint of concern in his voice. But Amanda couldn't wait any longer. "What is going on?" she demanded. The doctor understood Amanda's hurry and quickly sat down behind his desk. He started by explaining he invited her to his office because he didn't exactly know how to bring her this news. "There's been a horrible mistake," the doctor eventually said. "You already said that on the phone." "What kind of mistake?" Amanda urged the doctor. She wasn't only worried but also getting frustrated. The doctor was silent for a moment but then started to speak. "After you delivered Stacy, she was put in an incubator," the doctor said. Amanda nodded. "Like all babies." "Like all babies," he repeated and paused for a moment. Amanda watched him closely, and it was clear to her that he was struggling with his words. Then, he cleared his throat. "Once there, the babies were swapped by accident," he suddenly said. The words hit Amanda like a truck. She couldn't believe what the doctor had just said. "Swapped?" Amanda screamed, "What do you mean?" Dr. Lowell understood her reaction and tried to calm her down. He explained another mother gave birth to a daughter that same day. Amanda listened to the explanation, which only caused her to have more questions. "So," she asked. The doctor continued with his story, and Amanda listened impatiently. He explained that after giving birth, the other woman disappeared without a trace. It turned out she had given a fake name and left as soon as possible. The woman didn't want her child and left it at the hospital. "This happens more than you might expect," the doctor said. He explained they have an agreement with an orphanage just for instances like that. Meanwhile, the impatient Amanda was getting more and more anxious. "As policy instructs us to do, we tried everything to find the woman and return the child's mother to the hospital, but we couldn't find her," the doctor said. "So the baby was sent to the orphanage, but instead of taking the other woman's child, they mistakenly took Amanda's baby." Amanda felt a sharp pain in her heart as if she had been stabbed. She didn't know what to say as the realization started to kick in. Was she raising another woman's daughter? How could such a mistake have been made? Amanda was speechless. "But there is one more thing," the doctor then said. When the doctor figured out what had happened, he called Amanda immediately. But as fate would have it, a couple arrived earlier, claiming they were the parents of the disappeared woman. "They want answers about the whole situation and want to see their grandchild," the doctor said with a hesitant tone. Amanda's vision got blurry as everything became too much for her. Her mind was racing as the tears streamed down her face. She couldn't believe what was happening. She was raising another woman's child, and now the grandparents wanted to take it away from her. But then something suddenly crossed her mind. The thought struck her like lightning, and her tears suddenly stopped flowing. If she cared for another baby, where was her child? All of a sudden, her mind was focused on one thing: finding her biological child. "So, where is my baby now?" she confronted the doctor with a serious tone. The doctor frowned, making Amanda think he was afraid she might ask that question. Like before, Dr. Lowell hesitated for a moment but eventually answered her question. "Instead of the mystery woman's daughter, your daughter was sent to the orphanage. But I'm afraid I don't know what happened after that." Anger and frustration boiled inside her. "You got me here to tell me I've been raising the wrong child, but you can't help me any further," she screamed, but Dr. Lowell interrupted Amanda's rage and told her he couldn't help her. "But the orphanage might," he said while handing her a note. Amanda took the note and saw a phone number written on it. Realizing Dr. Lowell couldn't offer her any more help, she left his office. After she closed the door behind her, Amanda noticed the older couple near the window. She decided to talk to them as they could maybe help her find her child. But Amanda quickly realized that the old couple wouldn't be much help as they were looking for answers themselves. They regretted the situation as much as Amanda and wished they could help her. Amanda promised to help them clear everything up once she found her child, and with that, she hurried to her car. With every step she took, Amanda quickened her pace. She struggled to keep herself together and was in great need of fresh air. She took a few deep breaths as a tear rolled over her cheek. She thought about the past 2 years with Stacy, who wasn't her daughter. Amanda decided to call her mother. Amanda struggled to tell her mother the story over the phone, and as she had expected, her mother was astonished by the shocking news. But she recovered quickly. "We will fix this together, darling," she said. Telling her mother the shocking story had the effect she had hoped for. It gave her a chance to straighten her thoughts while also getting another person's opinion on the matter. "I think you should call the orphanage," her mother suggested. And Amanda agreed it was the best place to start. Amanda walked to a nearby bench and sat down. She noticed her breathing was getting quicker again, and her hands were trembling as she took the note Dr. Lowell handed her out of her bag. So much relied upon this call. It made Amanda nervous. Then she dialed the number. Amanda anxiously listened to the tone, and her heart jumped when a male voice answered the phone. "St. Jerome Emiliani Orphanage, David speaking," the voice sounded. Amanda hadn't prepared something to say, so instinct took over. "Where is my baby?" she asked without further context. And the response Amanda got surprised her. "Is this Amanda?" the voice on the phone asked. Amanda was astonished. How did this man know who she was? It took her a while before she responded. "Yes, I am." "How do you know?" "Who are you?" she demanded frustratingly. Every time she thought she was getting answers, more questions popped up. However, unlike the doctor, David was very straightforward in answering questions. He explained that he was a volunteer at an orphanage and that he was the person who had notified Dr. Lowell about a possible mistake. "I found something strange in the orphanage files, which made me contact the doctor," he said. Amanda listened breathlessly as the man explained everything from the beginning, answering all her questions. It all started when a woman contacted the orphanage for a possible adoption, David began. The woman wanted to plan a visit and make an appointment for a specific girl. "A girl we've had for 2 years now." Amanda's heart sank. Did someone adopt her child? However, as David continued the story, things got confusing. He told Amanda that the woman didn't show up twice for their appointment and acted very weirdly when she did show up eventually. "This isn't my baby. Where's my child?" she screamed, David said. This sudden turn of events took Amanda by surprise. Did she understand this right? "My baby is still with you?" she asked, hope drenching her voice. And when David responded that she was at the orphanage, her heart leaped, and tears started forming in her eyes. What a roller coaster had this day been. "Do you want to come over and meet her?" David asked, and Amanda said she would love to come over and reunite with her biological daughter. She told David she would come over, but when Amanda hung up, she thought of one thing she had to do before she could go. Amanda hurried back to the waiting room and was happy to see the couple sitting there. She explained she found her biological child and asked them to come with her. Together, they go to the orphanage, where Amanda has a heartfelt reunion with the daughter she never knew she lost. But it didn't end there, as Amanda didn't invite the couple over just for them to watch her reunion. No, she wanted them to meet their granddaughter. So, after Amanda finalized everything with the orphanage and got her real daughter back, she invited the older couple to come to her mother's place to meet Stacy. The old couple couldn't believe Amanda's generosity and accepted her invitation with open arms. When they arrived, Amanda explained everything in detail to her mother while they watched the happy reunion between grandparents and grandchild. But as happy as the moment was, there were still some things that needed to get sorted. Amanda and the grandparents were in a unique and challenging situation, but the two parties understood each other and eventually agreed upon a solution. Amanda would raise her biological child, whom she named Lucy, from this moment forward, while the grandparents would raise Stacy. It was difficult for Amanda, but they would remain in touch. And because Amanda had raised Stacy for the past 2 years, the grandparents frequently asked for her advice. Eventually, the older couple decided that the right thing to do would be to make Amanda the surrogate mother of Stacy and include her more, making Amanda the happiest woman in the world with 2 beautiful daughters.